Flare's native token called FLR has done absolutely amazing. Even though there's a slight pullback, it's done pretty well ever since I started talking about it. So I must say I did a pretty good call on that. Even though that's not financial advice, I'm still maintaining 50 cents as my price target for FLR during this bull run. And the simple reason for that is because when you take a look at a lot of other projects out there, right? Let's face it, in my opinion, they're pretty much complete caca. I'm not saying all, but I think a large majority are kind of caca. But you know what's great, hypothetically, in my opinion? That's something called FLR, because after all, FLR is the blockchain for data. And not only that, right? More specifically, it's even been stated that, it provides developers with decentralized access to data from other chains and the internet. Now, also, not to mention, right, it's an EVM, keep in mind, EVM stands for Ethereum Virtual Machine. But even besides that, it's an EVM smart contract platform with two data acquisition protocols. The first is something called FTSO, which stands for FLR Time Series Oracle. And the second one is called the Data Connector. Now, let's start off with the most exciting one, in my opinion, which is FTSO. And now this right here is the native oracle for FLR. Now, why is this amazing? You may be thinking, okay, this kind of, a caca thing, man. God out you. But in my opinion, it's actually very amazing because if you take a look at an oracle, basically what it is in this case is a data feed that brings data from off the chain, aka off-chain data. Some people call that, right? And it brings that data from, again, off the chain and brings it over into the blockchain. That's how amazing it is. Now, you may be thinking, okay, who cares about this type of nonsense, man? No one needs off-chain data. I mean, porra. But in my opinion, it's actually super necessary, hashtag Jorge Masvidal, because if you actually take a look at it, as we all know, there's so many decentralized applications out there. But what do most of them need? Hypothetically, right? They do need off-chain data to function properly. It's kind of like the way I take a look at it, an electric car needing electricity. Well, yeah, without it, can it really function? You know what I mean? Hypothetically, right? So when I take a look at something like the FLR Time Series Oracle, I think this right here is very amazing for FLR just overall. And not to mention as well, if I just take a look at an oracle in general, this is so crucial for the whole crypto space because if you actually take a look at it, as many decentralized applications as we know of today, there's going to be a lot more, in my opinion, in the future. It's only logical as the crypto space grows, right? As adoption increases, it's only natural. So, of course, there's going to be a need for just oracles, generally speaking. But even besides that point, when it comes to FTSO, it does offer decentralized price and data feeds to, again, decentralized applications on FLR. So yeah, I think that's just great news nonetheless. Now, we also take a look at something called, again, the data connector, which I think is a little bit more boring than FTSO. But you know what? I still have to mention it anyways. But you know what? When it comes to this, right, this is for trustless data proofs. Yeah, who really cares about that? But even besides that point, this enables information from other blockchains and the internet to be used on FLR. So again, I would give it like a 5 out of 10 cool ranking. I still have to mention it anyways, but I think that the FTSO is much cooler. Again, right, the FLR Time Series Oracle. But yeah, besides that point, comment down below if you agree with me, by the way. But here's the thing. If I take a look at something like FLR, guess what, right? It even is currently, doing very fantastic because giants like Anchor and Google Cloud, they're in the FLR ecosystem. I mean, God, porra. Are you talking about, again, Google Cloud and Anchor? I mean, this right here is amazing. So when I take a look at FLR, is it a caca project? Absolutely not. It's very amazing in my opinion. Again, I can't speak on anyone's behalf, but when I take a look at many projects out there, they have nowhere near the use case of FLR. But with that being said, people like to argue that, oh yeah, man, in the next 6 months to a year, FLR isn't going to gain like mass scale adoption. Who cares? Now, you may be thinking, why would I say that? It's because in the world of cryptocurrencies, people don't really care. Take a look at Solana. What quote unquote mass adoption does Solana have? It's primarily known for having meme coins. It's like, okay, the way to take a look at it again is that Solana doesn't really have mass scale adoption, but it's doing well anyways. So when I take a look at something like FLR, I don't know why it won't do good, like let's say in the next 6 months to a year. And just think about this, right? Even the co-founder of Ethereum, who not only is the co-founder of Ethereum, by the way, but he's also the founder of Cardano. And of course, I'm talking about none other than Charles Hoskinson, right? According to Charles, on a video that he was a part of on November 26, what did he say? He stated that in the next year to 2 years, from then, right, he could very well see Bitcoin reaching anywhere between $250,000. So that's $250,000, by the way, all the way up to $500,000. I mean, can you imagine that? Even if, let's say, Bitcoin doesn't reach like $500,000 in the next year or 2 years, which I think is way too optimistic, by the way, let's say like 250,000. even at that point, I think FLR could very well exceed 50 cents in price because a high tide raises all ships. If let's say Bitcoin does very well and, the altcoin space is amazing, or should I say doing amazing, and the sentiment is very positive, 50 cents, I don't see why not, especially when I consider, the current circulating supply of something like, FLR. When I consider that, if it were to reach the price of 50 cents, at that point, market cap would be around $27 billion. I mean, just think about this, right? A $27 billion market cap is so minuscule. BNB reached over 100 billion, Dogecoin reached over 80 billion, Shiba Inu reached around 40 billion. Is this too much to ask for? I don't think so. Now, some people may argue that, hey, the hypothetical upside doesn't feel that great, They think it's kind of caca because 50 cents at this point is around a 16x from here. Now, I totally understand this argument, right? It's not going to be the best performing thing out there, in my opinion, especially from right now. But when I consider just how much FLR has pumped, which again, I predicted, by the way, doing an additional, let's say 16x from, this point, it doesn't seem too bad. At least that's the way I view it. Now, not financial advice. Again, I'm not telling anyone to do anything. But the way you take a look at it is that when it comes to FLR, it's done pretty well, much like I predicted. But then hypothetically, I think it still has some of the gas tank, especially like, let's say, 6 months from right now, a year from right now, things could be totally different. I think 2024 is a small taste of what's to come in the future. I think 2025 is the real McCoy. Now, some people may be wondering, okay, what happens if there's a pullback? Well, it's only expected, right? The journey to the top, isn't going to be smooth sailing. Just think about this. Did Bitcoin have a straight shot all the way from the price of $1 all the way to 100 grand? No, I mean, there was many pullbacks along the way, right? It's not like it decided to just have this massive, rise without any pullbacks. There's going to be pullbacks. That's, only expected. It's much like in real life. The journey to the top, in my opinion, isn't always smooth sailing. So if you actually take a look at something like, FLR again, right? Reaching the price of 50 cents not going to be this boom type of movement. You know what I mean? It's going to be like more of a zigzag, I would say, right? Like something that pumps a little bit of a pullback, then pump. But it's just a matter of time, which is why I'm still staying patient. I'm still dollar cost averaging into FLR. I haven't given up on it. And during the times when FLR was doing complete caca, let's face it, it was kind of boring for quite a while. I didn't give up because I knew that anything done hypothetically under a high emotional state is usually never a good idea. So I didn't panic sell. I didn't listen to all the FUD, all the people that said, oh man, you're making a bad decision, all this. You should go all into like Pepe. It's like, God out you, man. I believe in this. And I'm going to still believe in this because I'm going to still stick with my strategy anytime an income, acquire, hold, and I just wait because when it comes to FLR, I would arguably say that it's one of the, most useful projects of all time. Let's face it, many projects out there I don't think is that useful. So when I take a look at something like this is a no-brainer pick for me. Am I saying don't have fun and don't, hypothetically go into meme coins? I'm not saying that for me because I do love some meme coins, but I'm saying, there needs to be those foundational pieces as well in my portfolio, like the ones that actually have a good use case, good long-term future, which I do think, FLR is, which is why, again, FLR really is such a no-brainer pick for me. And at the price of 50 cents during this bull run, that really wouldn't surprise me whatsoever. But it's just a waiting game at this point. And I'm willing to wait because it doesn't even feel like that far anyways. Make sure to subscribe if you gain value from this video. I greatly appreciate it. It's Lee the Captain, and I'll catch y'all on the next one. I'm out. Peace. Bye.